So let's go ahead and get started. I know we're probably going to have quite a few people trickling in over the next few minutes, but we can go ahead and get started in the interest of time. So welcome everyone to our inventory customization webinar led by Katie Gielen. My name is Emily Yeomans, and I've been with Quartzy for about a year and a half. I work in the marketing department, and I'm just really excited to assist with Katie today in presenting this information. I know there's so many questions about, how do we customize our inventory? And there's lots of neat tips and tricks that she's going to go over. So Katie has been with us. She's an awesome customer support specialist and rock star, if I do say so myself. She's been with Quartzy for about 2 years, and she just knows tons of tips and tricks. So we're also recording this webinar, and we'll send it out afterwards, just in case you want to share it with your colleagues if anyone missed it. And then, of course, I would urge you to check out the link that I posted in our chat for upcoming webinars. We're just launching this webinar series. I'll repost it again in the chat and send it in the email as well. But we've got lots of cool webinars coming up for new lab members and admins, and also they're really great as a refresher. So let's go ahead and get started. Katie, welcome, and you can take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming today, guys. I hope that all the information we shared today will help you get the most out of all of our inventory features here. We'll go for about 30 minutes. We'll have plenty of time for questions. If you do have a question during our demo, you can type it into the chat feature, and then Emily will take those questions and we'll stop periodically to answer those. So we'll go over inventory types and custom fields, locations, importing and exporting, as well as how to customize the display of your inventory module. As always, if you have any questions, you can always email us at support@quartzy.com. All right, let's get on to the live demo here. So I want to start by orienting you to your account and what you're seeing on the main page when you log in. So notice your profile icon is over here. So that's going to be where your personal account settings are located. We got the help center right here and your lab shopping cart here. On the top left side of the toolbar here is where your lab selection and module settings appear. This is the request module. This is basically your digital shopping list where all your lab's requests and orders are tracked. This is the inventory module, and this will be where your lab's list of what's currently in stock, plus where everything is located and all of the important item data. And then we have the shop over here. This is the easiest way to find and request items you want to order from Quartzy. So now that we're kind of oriented, let's head over to where we can actually add types and locations to the inventory. So in the top left corner here, I'll open this menu and find the lab that I'm wanting to add inventory to. I'll click on that gear icon and it'll bring me to the Manage Labs pages where I can start adding my lab's locations and types. So first we'll go over to the Types tab where you can create categories for the different items in your inventory. By default, your lab will come with a general supply type. So that's right here. This type, as well as all other types that you add, will automatically include the fields that are listed in the standards field for all types list. So that's here. So all of these fields will always be included in every type that you add. Since you'll likely have more than just general supplies in your inventory, let's go ahead and add a new type from one of the pre-filled options that we provide. So we'll click Add Type. And then you can see all of these are pre-filled with fields, but you can always edit, remove, and add to those fields once you add this type. So let's add the antibody type. All right, and let's look at the type that we just added. So let's say I just want to add a selection to this raised in field. I can do that by clicking on this edit icon. And then it gives me this add selection option. Click on that. And I'll just add a selection there, click save. So now that I've added that selection, lab members will be able to choose sheep from the inventory when they go to fill in that raised in field for antibodies. You can continue to add however many types you need so that all items in your inventory can be categorized properly. And then I'll also go over one more way to add an inventory type a little bit later in this webinar. So next, we'll head over to the Locations tab. This is where you can create locations and manage where your inventory items are being stored. Let's go ahead and add a freezer location, and so we can start adding our freezer inventory. I'll click Add Location, specify which freezer I'm adding, and then click Save. So that adds that location. And then you'll likely have sub-locations within that freezer, such as freezer boxes where samples or antibodies are being stored. So let's go ahead and add that a freezer box sub-location. So when you're adding a freezer box, you'll make sure to select this freezer box option and not the shelf or rack option. So I'll go ahead and give my freezer box a name. And since we only have 3 location levels, location, sub-location, and location details, I'm using this sub-location name to further narrow down the exact location of this box within the freezer. By default, the freezer boxes are 9 by 9, but you can adjust the size all the way to 25 by 25. So we have lots of sizing options there. I'll keep mine at 9 by 9. So I've created my freezer box sublocation, and now I can click on the grid icon to bring up this interactive box. From here, I can click on any of these add symbols to add an inventory item to that specific location within the box. I'll go ahead and add an inventory item to position A1. So you can see that a couple of the fields are auto-filled. So we have the item name and the URL is auto-filled. I'll go ahead and get my, my lab's price for this item. And then while we're here, we can also go ahead and add an expiration date as well as a reminder of that date. So I'll go ahead and set this expiration date to October 15th. And then I want to receive a reminder 1 month before. So I'll select that 1 month. And so on September 15th, I'll receive an email with a reminder to order more to the email that I log into Quartzy with. So I'll go ahead and click Add Item. And then let's go back to the inventory and see the item that we just added. So that's right here. Clicking on the item name. We'll bring up the item detail panel here. And if you scroll down a little bit, you can see that grid that we just added as a sublocation, the expiration date, as well as all of the antibody fields. So you can see all of the fields that come with the antibody type here. You can also use this grid to add or move the location of this item within the freezer box. So if I wanted to add it to this row instead, I could just do that. All right. And so I think we'll stop for questions now. So Emily, if any questions have come in, we can go ahead and answer those.
Yeah, we did get a couple of questions. Daryl Spillman is interested in knowing, so the default is labeled A1, A2, etc. Is it possible to change those since the boxes themselves are numbered?
It's actually not possible to change those, but we do have a really helpful help center that I can email you later to basically automatically transfer those locations. I think some people use like a 1 to 81 type of naming for their boxes. So you can easily transfer those to the A1, alphanumeric locations. So I can definitely send you guys that information through email later.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie. Surya would like to know if there will be more levels of location hierarchies available in the near future.
In the future, yes, that's definitely something that we plan on adding. Right now, my best suggestion would be to put more details in the sublocation. So like I did here, shelf 1, rack 1, box 1, I kind of like really narrowed it down in that sublocation field. So that's what I suggest for now, but we do plan on having more in the future. So stay tuned for maybe Q3 or Q4 of this year.
You guys have lots of questions. This is awesome. And which of the parameters are required, Katie?
So for inventory, the only thing that's required is item name and then the vendor. And then I can show you a little bit more on that later when we go into importing.
So it looks like there are a couple questions about reorder date and expiration, but I think, or are you going to cover that in the next part?
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so we'll come back to those questions. Let's see. Will there ever be a way to change that template rather than change the locations? It's confusing if the box itself has 1 to 81 printed or an alphanumeric that doesn't match the template grid.
So when well, this is something we'll also go over a little bit later. So maybe I can just bring up that sheet here.
Cool. And there are a couple of questions about, what if dates are required but you don't have a date, how do you get out of that field? Is it possible to enter a minimum quantity? Oh, that's for the reordering.
Yeah, so this is how basically you would transfer your number box positions to the alphanumeric positions. So I can definitely send you all these links here.
That's great.
Like I said before, we don't really have a specific reordering feature right now, but you can kind of work your way into using the expiration date if you need to kind of have a reminder to reorder those items.
Yeah, and so Julie is saying it would make a lot more sense, if the system could change to fit the existing structure. And it sounds like that's something, that as we do ongoing product development and talk about these features, that certainly has come up before, and it's certainly something we'll look into.
Yeah, for sure. I'll definitely bring that up with our product development team and definitely let them know that this is brought up during the webinar. So they'll definitely consider that for future development.
Our product team Katie and I both work really closely with our product team, and we have a really active product team. So we're always looking for really good feedback like this. So definitely keep these ideas coming and let us know, how we can be better for you. So I love getting this type of feedback.
Yeah, any feedback can also go to support@quartzy.com. We love hearing from you guys.
Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of questions about the expiration and reorder date, which I know Katie is going to get to in a second. So let's see if she can answer some of these questions going through that section of the presentation. Any other questions about the freezer box and the locations? All right, cool.
All right, so we'll go on to basically importing and exporting. So now that we know how to add those types, custom fields, and locations, let's go over how to import an existing inventory to your lab. So if your lab is able to obtain like a spreadsheet of your current inventory, you can use that to populate the inventory in your Quartzy lab. We'll start out by downloading Quartzy's Excel template. So first I'll double check that I'm in the lab I want to import the inventory into. So I just want to make sure that I'm in the correct lab. So I'm in my demo lab, so that's correct lab. And then I want to also make sure that I'm in the inventory module. So if you're in the request module, we also have the option to import and export from there. But if you try to import inventory through there, it won't work. So make sure you're in your inventory module. Then you'll click on import. And this is where you can download Quartzy's template so that you can get your inventory into this module. So for the sake of the webinar, I have a template already filled out with a couple of items here. So you can see I have a couple of antibodies here. We already added this location and this sublocation to our lab. So when I import my file, these two antibodies will automatically go into these positions in that interactive grid format. And then when importing freezer box inventory, keep in mind that you do have to create the freezer location and sublocation before you import your file. Anything else that's not in a freezer box can actually be created on the sheet afterwards. So I've added a couple chemicals as well. And even though we didn't add a chemical type beforehand, nor did we add this location or sublocation, these will automatically be created when we import this file. So each separate sheet here will be imported as its own type. So I'll go back to Quartzy. I'll say, yes, I use Quartzy's Excel template. And I'll upload that file. So now I can see all those inventory items that were in my file are now in my Quartzy inventory. We can use the filters on the left-hand side here to narrow down what we want to see as well. So let's say I want to filter by just the chemicals in my inventory. We'll go to type and then click on that chemical. And then we see only the chemicals. So let's say I need to generate a list of just the chemicals in my lab, maybe for someone else in the lab or for auditing reasons or whatever. So I'll click this export button. And if I want just the chemicals, I'll say export items that match current filters only. And then I'll export that file. And that will automatically down an Excel file of all my lab's chemical type to my computer. Then another easy way to make sure you always have a copy of your lab's inventory is to sign up for email backups. Let's head on over back to the Manage Labs page, and we'll go to the Backups tab. So again, you want to find your lab and click the gear icon. That gets you to the Manage Lab pages, and we'll go to Backups. So I'd like to receive a weekly backup, so I'll select the every Sunday option. Going forward, I'll receive an email with my lab's inventory file on a weekly basis. So click that, and then I will show you exactly what date you'll get your first backup. And anyone in the lab can sign up to receive these backups. They just need to take the same steps here while logged into their own account. So that it is profile specific. So let's head back over to the inventory module. And here we can customize which columns are displayed as well as how to sort the inventory. Making changes to this display here will only affect your view and not the view of other members in your lab. So if they want their own custom view, they'll have to sign in and take these steps as well. So to select which columns which should be displayed in the inventory module, click the gear icon on the right-hand side here. So you can see that all these checked off boxes are displayed as columns in your inventory module. For example, I may not need the serial number column. So I'll go ahead and deselect that, but I do want the expiration date. So let's select that one. Click out of this box to see that the expiration date is automatically added as a column. And then you can also drag and drop these if I wanted it maybe here instead. Then you can further customize columns that are displayed by filtering the inventory by a specific type. So let's say I'm filtering by Antibody, and I'll go over here and click on this gear icon again. Then I can see all the Antibody fields here, and I can select any one of these to be a column in my inventory. So I'll go ahead and select the raised in field that we edited earlier. So now, anytime I am in the inventory module and I filter by the Antibody type, these will be the columns that are represented. So it'll include that raised in field. The raised in field will not be included if you do not filter by the Antibody type. So the last thing I want to show you is that you can also sort the order that the items are listed in by any of the columns displayed in the inventory module. And you'll just click on the column header to sort by ascending or descending order. So by default, it's by added. So you can see that arrow. If I wanted to click descending order, it would go there. Of course, we added all these today, so they'll be the same. But you can, sort by any that would be alphabetical order there, by vendor, by amount. So any of those columns can be sorted.
Hey, Katie, we've got a couple of questions about the spreadsheet template. Is it okay if we?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was
ask
basically
some
done with that as well.
Cool.
So you can go ahead and ask questions.
What if there are more fields in the chemical template, or can you add subfields?
Yes, we can definitely add fields there. So let me go ahead and show you that. So if you wanted to add more fields from here, you could even do that from your Quartzy account, like I showed you earlier, or you could do it from here. So if you wanted to do that, these are all the fields that are basically included by default. So you'll go past all those, and in the next column, you'll enter your custom field. So I'll just, I'm not very creative, so I'll just write custom field. Fill out the information for that field. And then when you import this, this file to your inventory, this will be added as a field to that chemical type.
So that looks like it would work.
Information will be in there as well.
That would work well if you wanted to organize by chemical family as well, because you could use that custom field by chemical family type.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what you mean by like chemical family.
Like organic acids, and then a different type, and then a different type of chemical.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can always, you have the item name, you have all of these details in here, and then you can add really, I mean, as many custom fields as you want. There's really no limit to what you can add in here.
And then a couple questions about that information. Are you able to upload a chemical that has more than one CAS number? And also, are you able to upload SDS information?
Yes, so we do have a default CAS number field. So that's where I would put your first CAS number. And then if you have an alternate CAS number, I would just say, name it CAS number 2. And enter that as a custom field to store that information. Because yeah, I would say it's easier to search by CAS number if you only include one in this field. So I would definitely suggest making another field for that. And I'm sorry, what was the other question?
The uploading SDS information.
Yes. So let me go back here.
Thanks for all the questions, everyone. I'm trying to get to all of them.
So the way to upload any kind of like protocol, SDS file, maybe a 3D image or anything like that, you would just click on this upload file. And then you would search your computer for any of the files that you have. I don't think we actually have any limits to the type of file that you can upload. You should be able to upload anything to your inventory item.
Perfect.
the one thing to keep in mind with that is that the files do not export. Like if you were to export your inventory, the files that you attached here would not import with your file.
There's a question also about manually changing dates for items that are uploading, if you're uploading historical information. So that could just be a custom column, right?
So Quartzy will upload it as the date added will be the date that you uploaded it in. And so all that history will be here. And then if you need, a place to store, maybe where it was actually added for historical inventory, you could definitely add those, like I showed you earlier for the custom fields. So that would also be adding here if you're uploading in bulk. And then we could also do that from here as well. So we could add a custom field from here.
And I also want to reiterate that we're always around to help too. If you have questions, if it's, we've seen some pretty big inventory uploads, imports into accounts. So we're always happy to help out if you've got questions. Don't feel like, you've got to learn all this today and do it on your own.
And every lab is a little bit different. And I know that, uploading the inventory may not be the most straightforward process. So definitely, if you have any questions or would like any assistance with uploading inventory or anything like that, just go ahead and email us at support@quartzy.com and I'll definitely take care of that for you.
So there's a question also about if you use an item from an inventory, are you able to archive that item?
So we are working on an archive feature. I don't have an exact timeline for that yet, but my workaround for now is basically to create a location, name it archive or not in use or whatever you would like to name that. And so let's say that I've used all of this. So I don't want this to be in my active inventory anymore. So I'll just go ahead and change that location to archive. That way, when I filter by antibody, that item won't show up anymore. I'll have to filter by archive to see that item.
Perfect. And then another question, these are awesome questions, everyone. Is there a way for Quartzy to autofill the CAS numbers for the chemicals? Is that something that we do when chemicals are purchased through Quartzy, Katie?
So the CAS numbers are not automatically added, but we are currently working on getting to this. And I know Chloe will probably go over this more in the webinar that she's doing for the equivalent matches. She'll be able to answer a lot more of that, specific product info and details, information there. But we don't have a way to automatically fill that information out just yet.
Yeah. And another question, I think this goes back to the custom columns that can be created. How do you add multiple locations to an item? So would that just be an extra column created?
There's a couple of different options for that. So if you had one item that you wanted to have multiple locations, you could either duplicate that item, and then you'll be able to add that second location there. And so you'll have basically two of that same item, one in the first location and one in your other location. Otherwise, if you don't want to do that, you would just create that custom field like I showed you earlier.
Awesome. And then Tom at Happy Labs, hey Tom, asked a really great question about barcode scanning. Curious about the process for adding quantity to inventory and subtracting from inventory. We've been asked, how can I subtract quantities in real time, like with a barcode scanner, as I take them off the shelf and use it? What is the best way to do that, Katie?
So right now our barcoding feature is more to basically search your inventory easily. We do plan on having, developing it so that you can have a programmable response. So you can program it to, either add or deduct inventory automatically. We don't have that just yet. So what our barcoding features does now is let you search for items pretty easily. And then you can, once you have the item up in here, you can make your changes through Quartzy. But scanning an item only searches it and won't actually make any changes just yet.
Hey, I can talk actually. I thought I was locked out. So, so currently then manually we have to go in and like at the end of the day or something like that, just change the quantities ourselves. Because we're trying to figure out if like the scientists can do it as they take stuff off the shelf, or does like the lab manager do it once a week or once a day and manually go into Quartzy and go from like 10 to 6. And then it definitely ties into the other question that people have been asking about like a reorder quantity. So it comes up a lot in the Happy Labs network, and it's very helpful if someday that happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely good to know. I'll definitely be bringing this up with our product development team. This has definitely been something that's, asked about before. Mm-hmm. And it is on the pipeline or the roadmap for this year, but I do not have an exact timeline on this yet. So let me go ahead and, get with our product development team and see if we can get a timeline, and we'll email that out to you guys.
Yeah, and I can send out additional information with the recording after this webinar later today or tomorrow that has, the barcoding information that we do have. We do, have some, like Katie said, limited barcode functionality right now. It's a very popular request to have that, adding, subtracting feature, and it's something we talk about a lot. I think our product team is really wants to get that implemented in the right way. So it's taking a little bit of time, but I'll send out what we do have right now.
Hi, I wanted to add something to that discussion if you have time.
Sure.
So the main reason I'm here basically is to give you some feedbacks. Because the one that was just discussed was one of my main issues, that we have to go in and for every single item, we have hundreds of items, obviously, like every lab has hundreds of items, and it's just basically not feasible to go in and update the quantity of any item, every single item every day or every week manually. So there has to be a solution to that. Otherwise, it's just not a streamlined system. So in terms of that, and also which is very much connected to the reordering process, you mentioned expiration dates and expiration dates that give you email reminders. I don't think that's useful either. In most cases, it's not about expiration. First of all, it's about when we run out of things, especially for high consumption rate items. So we can take that as an expiration date. Let's say that we're going to be out of this kind of consumable in a month or two, and then we can set that as the expiration date. But email reminders are not really doing it because, first of all, we already get hundreds of emails from you guys every day. So that's not the point. Secondly, I still have to go in and do it manually. So that still defeats the purpose. What I think is that in the meanwhile, while you're trying to do, figure out how you can do the barcode scanning and everything, there might be a solution, like an interim solution for those items that I just mentioned that have a very high consumption rate, meaning that their inventory goes down quickly, and also there is need for reordering very fast or very regularly, which is something that everyone, like I'm pretty sure everyone in this room has the need. So I think in those cases, at least there should be this option of kind of automatic decrease in the quantity, or like, so let's say there are these pipette tips that we know for sure there's going to be one case of each is going to be consumed every month, more or less. I would be happy to just set that as the decrease rate and not even look back at it and not care how many cases or how many boxes have been consumed, really, because it doesn't really matter. As long as I know that there's going to be a decrease in the number of boxes, like X number of boxes every month. And then by the time it goes below that certain number, there's an automatic addition to the new requests. That will do it for me in the case of those high consumption rate items. So for example, if in this case of this pipette tips, I just set it up at, like, let's say $5 a month, and then just add it to the new request. So I'm talking about two options that should be added. One, automatic decrease, and two, automatic addition to new requests. So that's one thing that I think in the meanwhile can address some of the issue.
Yeah, that's definitely really great feedback, and we definitely heard it before. And we are looking into doing that. I think the main problem right now during COVID mainly is that these items that are in high demand, like pipette tips, gloves, masks, and everything, the prices are changing so rapidly, as well as the stock levels, that we can't even guarantee, those stock levels from our suppliers. So we are working on finding a way around that.
It doesn't matter if the prices change, because every time we want to approve an order, we go back and check the prices. That happens when you're approving the orders. What I'm talking about is not that. Is not approving the price and the order and placing the order. I'm talking about before that, when it's about how many, it's about inventory, keeping the inventory, and it's about adding to the new requests.
Right, yeah, and that's definitely something our product development team is working on now. So we'll definitely, release any updates in our newsletter. But I don't have a specific timeline on that quite yet, but it's definitely something that we're working on for this year.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. It is really helpful. Yeah. So just in the interest of time, because I know there's a couple more things that I think we're going to go over and some more questions coming in. So we'll just keep the questions coming into the chat. And then if anyone has specific questions, feel free to email us, afterwards if you want to chat more, or email support as well.
Yeah, and that was it for the inventory. So if you have any other questions, we can definitely go over those now.
Okay, perfect. There's a lot of conversation happening in the chat. So there was a really good question about, can you add pictograms to the inventory?
So like I was talking about earlier, you can basically add any kind of file to your inventory items. You just want to click on the item name and then use this upload file button. And that'll give you the option to upload any items, or I'm sorry, any files.
Perfect. And then let's see. Yeah, there's just so many really good ideas in here. Will it show as a picture?
It will only show as basically the name of the file, and you'll always need to click that and it will download to your computer. So we are working on, basically a document or attachment preview so that you won't have to download it every time. But for now, basically it's attached to basically like an attachment to an email.
So it doesn't show up if you're looking at that inventory view.
Right. It'll just have the name of the file here.
And is there a limit to the amount of files that can be uploaded?
I don't think there is. No limit to the amount of files nor the type of file. We should be able to select any kind of file. And if not, please do email me. And let me know that you're having a trouble uploading that specific file, and we'll definitely work through that with you.
And can you show, there were a couple more questions about the customizing for the upload template. Can you show that template again?
Yeah. So this is the template here.
Yeah, so these are the standard fields, and then anything after which letter can be customized. What's the CAS number?
Right. So if you go to your general supply sheet, all of these fields are going to be included in each and every type. So basically, if you wanted to add a new type from here, I would just copy paste these to a new sheet. Oops. Name that sheet. And then I can add whichever primer custom fields that I want throughout here. And this would be uploaded as a new type, as a primer type.
Perfect. And there's no limit on how many columns you can add, custom columns.
Nope, no limit, no limit.
We've seen some really lengthy ones.
Yes,
Very large files.
for sure.
So large that took quite a while to open. Awesome. Any other questions? You guys have been so great with the questions.
Yeah, these are good ones.
How can I get the template for chemical antibody?
So that's basically like I showed you earlier here. So anything that's already added here, these types will, if you download a template, these types will already be on there, as well as these locations. So if I were to download a template now, it includes those types that I already have in my inventory. And does that kind of answer your question, or was there another?
Yeah, it looked like it. And then there were a couple questions about using, like, do you have to use the standard fields? Do you just upload them blank, or can you delete them?
So the standard fields for all types here, and I'll go back there real quick here. So what they're talking about is these standard fields for all types. All of these fields, they can't be edited or removed or added to or made required. This is something we get a lot though. So we're definitely, our product team is definitely considering making these customizable. But right now, these are just automatically included in each and every type, and they can't, be edited or removed.
So you would just upload them blank if you didn't want to input that information.
Right. So say I added a custom type here. So even though you don't see any custom fields right here, you know that all the standard fields here will be included in this primer type that I just added. And anything else I add will be additional to the standard fields.
Awesome. And then we've got a question about using the duplicate function to enter multiple chemicals. Everything duplicates, but the owned by field. Can this be changed so the owner field for the duplicated chemical also duplicates and copies over?
Yeah, so the owner field can actually always be changed, at least if you're in a lab admin. So let's click on this. It's owned by Robin Green. Right now, I actually can't change it because I'm the only member in this lab. But in general, if you click on that name, it'll give you a list of all the members and admins in your lab, and you can choose from any one of those. So you can always change that owner. And then if you were to export your inventory, there'll be an owner column, and you can change it from there as well.
Great. Yeah, and Tom is asking about the new layout of the item on the request pages. When will that launch? I believe that is going to be sometime in April, possibly May, but it should be within the next month. So on that, what he's referring to is this new kind of expanded detailed view of products. So when you,
oh sure,
yeah, and that's really in the shop. So it takes you out of inventory, but it will give you more detail on a shop item view. So if you're looking, up pipette tips and you find what you're looking for, it's going to have way more information on it. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I can definitely give you a little preview here. Let's see.
And then Katie, after you show this, can you talk about the permissions of who can and can't modify fields?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is our new product pages here, not been released yet.
It's much
So let's go back.
wider, holds a lot more information.
Yes, it's very detailed, and Chloe will probably go over that more in her webinar as well. So what was that next one? The
Equivalent matches. Yeah. So if you're interested in learning about some of our equivalent matches, how they're made, what it means to get an equivalent match, definitely join us for that webinar.
and then what was that next question after this one?
Oh, the next question. There's some question around who can modify, like if you don't want people to modify the fields,
So that can be,
inventory.
yeah, that can be set from your lab settings. So it's per lab. So you want to go to your lab settings, and then one of the first questions, it's who can edit inventory items in this lab? And there's two options here. Only item owner. So that's what I talked about previously, that you can always change that if you're a lab admin, and lab admins, or you can select anyone in this lab can, edit inventory. And even if this one is selected, anyone in the lab can still add inventory items. They just won't be able to, edit items that aren't owned by themselves.
Cool. Let's see. We've got just a couple of minutes left. Teresa asked if we're giving a workshop at the National Association of Scientific Materials Managers. I'm not sure, Teresa. I will definitely look into that since I handle a lot of our event planning. So thank you for mentioning that. And then just some more general questions, if you don't mind answering them, Katie. Thanks for going over, getting out of inventory. I know your expertise is wide in Quartzy, so we've got some more general questions. Can I deactivate people without deleting them?
You're not really able to deactivate anyone. You can only basically add or remove people from your lab. Just go over here. Maybe find one with more than one person. So basically I have the option to see I needed Chloe to be able to place orders or edit in any inventory item. I'll go ahead and make her an admin instead. Or let's say, Chloe is no longer with us. I can remove her by clicking this X. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's how I would do it. But there's really no way to deactivate or, put anyone in a view only kind of position. So the only roles that we offer are the admin and the member roles.
So it looks like maybe you can speak more to this, that there's a thought that this might be a bug. There's a disconnect between requests and inventory. If an item in request is marked received with no specified location, then the location cannot be updated unless you switch to inventory. Do you know anything about that, Katie?
So let's go to this order tab here. So when you mark something as received, you're able to do that, that location there. So I'm not really sure what the question is. If there's an existing inventory item already there, it'll say up at the existing item, and it will have the existing item's location already basically pre-filled in there. But you can also add it as a new item if you wanted to put a different location. So that'll show you.
Right. And so I think the question is what if you don't put a location and then you mark it as received, then you have to go into inventory to update it. because that's where it will live going forward.
Right. So I definitely suggest, when you're marking something as received, just go ahead and add that location there. That way you won't have to find anything. But if you do need to do that, if you forget to add a location, you just go over to your inventory and then sort by added, and it would be at the right top of your list. And then you can also, if you were the one to mark it as received, you'll be the owner. And so you can also just select your name from here.
So if you don't add a location, will it still show as received?
It will show as received. The inventory item just will not have a location attached to it, basically. So this would just be blank. But you could always go back and choose the location.
Awesome. You guys you have tons and tons of questions. I feel like we could stay here all day. This is so great. There was a question earlier about equivalent matches. If those, where do those happen? Katie, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe those happen in requests.
Correct. So let's go to the request module and see if we have any sitting there for us. Let's see. So here's an example of one. So we added this as a non-Quartzy item, and then Quartzy says, oh, hey, we can get this for this price and you'll receive it by this time. And you can either accept the quote or just ignore it completely. So if I were to accept that quote, it would automatically update the request and add the item to cart. And then Chloe will definitely be able to answer more about, how equivalent matches are made. Her and another person on our life science product team are the ones that make those matches.
Yeah, so a lot of times they're actually manually making those matches. And
yes, yeah, they've manually made and looked at every single match. So it's definitely, a vetted process.
Yeah, they're experts. They come from a
Yes.
science background and really know if it truly is a match or not. So definitely check out that webinar if you're interested in learning more, especially during this time, in the last year with supply chain issues have come up globally around the world. Obviously, it's not just impacting us, and equivalent matches can be a really great way to circumvent that.
Correct. Yes. If your original item is on Backorder, do not hesitate to email us and ask if we have anything else that might be equivalent in stock. And our life science product team will definitely look into that for you. And if we have anything in stock, we'll go ahead and order that for you.
I want to download the whole inventory to have a look at where we are at. How does that sort?
Yeah, so I can show you that here. So if you wanted to download just a full inventory file, you would first select a lab here. And then you just want to hit that import. You choose export all inventory and then you export that file. So I think I have a good bit of inventory in here, so I won't do that. It might take a couple minutes here. So, but that would download in the same type of template that I've been showing you.
So, Jake Hill, you're saying I want the whole inventory. So that should be the whole entire inventory.
Yes, that would be all the inventory for this selected lab. Keep in mind that you're actually not able to, so if I were to go to all of Quartzy testing university labs, I actually don't have that option to import or export from there. So you have to do it lab by lab. Actually select a lab. Yes, you'll select a lab and then you'll have those options to import or export. But if you sign up for these backups here, once you sign up for those backups, you'll be receiving an email with the files for every single one of the labs that are in this list here. And so those will come every Sunday. You'll have a file for each one of your labs. And you can also have them here, say I needed the most recent backup, I would just be able to download that right there.
Great. Yeah. And then once you get that CSV file, a couple of people are talking in the chat about how you can sort it any way you want. You can filter, you can sort it alphabetically, whatever works best for you. You can definitely do that.
Yeah, and someday, we do plan on having, a more customized template so that you can add in, like formulas and calculations into your inventory, add grant ID, balances and stuff like that. So definitely stay tuned for those updates.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, you can create those custom fields. So I know we've got a couple more questions about, I know people were trickling in, so you may have missed this part, but you can definitely add custom fields after the standard fields and, add whatever, serial numbers or whatever sublocations, any other information that you're looking for. You can definitely do that. There was a question earlier. We'll just take one or two more questions since we're running to the end, guys. But there was a question about, how would people, are we planning on expanding the screen view so that people can see more fields in one view?
Yeah, so I mean, you can definitely, add as many of these as you would like.
They get very small.
Yeah, they'll just get a little bit smaller. You can reorder them and everything like that. So you can basically like really customize it. And like I said, if you filter by type here, you can also add those columns. So say I want, the alternate name for my chemicals to show up, I'll add that column there.
So there's a question from Christina. I was just answering it in chat and I got cut off. So sorry, it's like a half sentence. It sounds like you were wondering about search and how you used to be able to just search like a short term like B12 as opposed to vitamin B12 or using a hyphen. So we did actually make some pretty major improvements to our search that should make it easier to find items without having to use that hyphen. If you are having, if that's still happening and there's specifics, definitely reach out to our support team because I believe that should have been resolved. Is that right, Katie?
Somewhat, yes. So sometimes if you search by, so say I want to find this ethanol 500 mil, it might not come up if I just type in the end of that. So it did this time, luckily. But sometimes you do need to type, the just beginning, and sometimes it'll have trouble, searching in the middle or the end. But like Emily said, we did make some improvements to that, so it should be improved, but it's not 100% fixed. We're still working on it for sure.
We'll keep working on it.
Yes, it's a really high priority. So they're basically always working on improving the search. And then I don't know if any of you guys know, but we do have a global search here now. It used to be just the Quartzy shop search, but now you can search all of the modules as well as the shop here. So it'll show you all the results from the shop, anything you have requested, and any of the gloves you have in inventory as well.
And then we should get wrapped up so everyone can get to lunch or get back to work. So thank you everyone for joining us. We're going to be sending out the recording of this if you want to share. Again, I posted the link to our upcoming webinars. They're free, they're live. It's a great way to learn a lot of information and get up and running or get a refresher. So definitely take a look at those. And like we mentioned, keep the ideas coming. Feel free to email us, reach out anytime with ideas, thoughts, questions. We are always here to help. And thanks, Katie, for hosting.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thanks so much for taking time out of your day, guys. I know we're all pretty busy these days. So if you have any other questions, go ahead and just email me at support@quartzy.com. We'll be happy to answer those.
Thanks, everyone.